Hi, Galav. Nice to finally meet
Uh,
you. Uh,
Great to
so,
meet you too.
so could you maybe just have a quick introduction of yourself?
Okay, well, I'm Galav Bhushan. I have done a BBA from JGBS, the Jindal School, and I work in an edtech platform. I do sales in America for them, and I also run my own startup on the side called Actualise, which is it's to do with digitalization, digital marketing, web development, etc. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Great. So, thank you very much for judging the prototyping round of the GGU Ideation Challenge. I'm given to understand that you were one of the founding members of the GGU Entrepreneurship Club, and kudos for that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Uh, So just a quick question, was what we're carrying out, does it align with your mission and vision that you entailed for the GG Entrepreneurship Club?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, see, the Entrepreneurship Club, the idea was brought to me by Professor Gandok. He told me that we can start something like that. And at that point in time in my life, lots of things were happening. So I was trying to start up my own thing.
Right.
College had gone off online, so everything was happening online. And then there were a couple of people with their startups that were doing really, really well. And I was trying to start my own thing. And I felt like kind of and the whole imposter syndrome where you start your own thing, but then it's because it's only you kind of feel like, where is the company? Right?
Right.
It's just me. So at that point in time, you know, starting your own thing, it got a bit intense, got a bit lonely. And then I thought, all right, Entrepreneurship Club, let's pick it up. Let's see, there are more people doing the same thing in Jindal. And what I found was that I wasn't alone, right? Like 45% of people have their own businesses.
Right.
Most of people come from a business background. So, the idea was to build a community. And I think that it's being executed very, very well. And the community is growing. So it's very in line with what I want. I just hope that everyone in Jindal who have their own businesses or who are starting off or, even playing with the ideas, they have someone to bank on, right? Like a group to bank on, at least
Definitely.
10 people doing the same thing. So
Right.
that was the plan. Yeah.
Very well put, actually. So you definitely did mention that you were pitching your own startup. You actually were working on it, are working on it alongside with a corporate job. So could you maybe
Yeah.
just throw some light on your entrepreneurial journey as well? So where did this idea stem from?
Yeah. So when lockdown started off last year, my mother started her own company. She quit her job, started her own thing. And she needed some help with web development and things like that, right? So us being resourceful Indians, my mom is a Mauritian, so she
Right.
doesn't have, that much of a penchant for bargaining or, finding the best deals and things like that. So she told me, and I was like, okay, why not? Let me find you something. And what happened there is that, like, I got her website built, and then I kind of got into the idea, right? That you can build a website, you can do things like that. Did not know it was so accessible. So I started picking it up. I started playing around with it. Around this time was when kind of I was doing lessons on branding and marketing with Professor Laknath. So this is where I also kind of picked up how to form a brand using basic principles, CBBE, cultural branding, things like that. And that's what kind of got me into this entire marketing role where I am in right now, where, understanding audiences, packaging, selling your product, MVPs, things like that.
Right.
So yeah, when I started off, it was pretty all right. I think when you're just starting off, it is the best time in a business because as they say, friends, family, fools, FFF, right? So FFF is bringing you business from everywhere, and you're just like, oh my god, I've hit a treasure trove, right? So much business, so much money coming in. But then once that stops and once you start going through the grind of actually like executing, that's when it gets really, really tough. So that's where I was when the entrepreneurship club thing started. We're kind of in the stage where don't know what you're doing, but you're kind of doing it, trying to make things go. But like if I were to like summarize it, summarize the entrepreneurship experience, it is when I did my interview for one of the universities, somebody told me that if you're ever thinking of going into business, then you should be best friends with insecurity. And I think that's very, very valid. Everything in business is all about insecurities constantly. So
Right.
yeah, it was interesting. Still is interesting. Some days it's good, some days it's bad. Right.
Right. So, prior to this recording session, you definitely did mention Actualize. Could you maybe just throw some light on what Actualize is as well?
Okay. So the idea came from when my mother was starting her own business, because lots of services were required, right? It was not only creative services, so doing logo, graphic design, making brochures, making websites, color schemes for the websites, color schemes for the Facebook page. That's when I kind of got into a bit into marketing, and I realized that Facebook Pixel is a tool which you can integrate. You can kind of create lookalike audiences, how you go about marketing. So Actualize has been formed with the vision of kind of centralizing everything for a person. Say you as an entrepreneur tomorrow want to go and start your own business.
Right.
You can come to Actualize, and what we do for you is that we manage it end to end, where we're getting into integrating the legal aspects of it as well, where we will be able to set up the LLP for you and kind of get all of the legal stuff done. But currently, everything beyond the legal stuff, which includes web development, setting up your domains, getting your email addresses, setting up invoicing systems, accounting systems. If you want any cloud-based subscription, say Google Cloud, things like that, setting it up on your own domain. So instead of at Gmail, it's at whatever your company's name is. So we do things like that. Then we also take it one step further, where we're integrating all of these platforms together. We use integration tools like Zapier to actually help these different platforms. So say you're operating on 5 different platforms, right? Gmail for email, website, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, right? You have data in all of these structures on all of these platforms. All of this data helps you narrow down your audiences as an organization. What we at Actualize do is, apart from setting these up, we also integrate them with each other so that they can communicate with each other. And your online presence and your online audience is as refined as it can be at any given time. So that is Actualize in a nutshell. Now, we do marketing operations and stuff like that, but I am a firm believer that marketing should be in-house. It should be something that people do themselves. So what we generally suggest is that we make a marketing ready platform for you, and you do your own marketing, because marketing is very individualized. It is every week you kind of have to change your campaigns, track your metrics, see how it's going, and play around with your business model as well. But we do marketing for certain people. We have a tie-up with the results marketing, actually. So that is, they're our marketing partner. Yeah.
Right. So just building up on that, you definitely did have given it a lot of thought and work on it as well. Effort definitely counts. So I just wanted to ask, so what would you state are a few prerequisites for any entrepreneur to maybe jumpstart into a new thing, new venture, new industry?
Okay. First of all, I'll go back to that insecurity point, and you kind of have to be ready to face problems. Entrepreneurship is all about problems and solving those problems. Right now, those problems could be something that you face on your journey, or somebody else faces. You kind of solve it for them and generate value. So I think one is definitely to kind of be comfortable with insecurity, understand that it is something that is part of the game, right? Another tip I would say is that ideas are cheap. This is something I keep telling Parv also. I don't know if Parv has ever told you or not, but I always tell him this, that ideas are cheap. Anyone can have ideas. Anyone can actually come up with great ideas, brilliant ideas. It's all about execution. End of the day, where I see a lot of entrepreneurs kind of, slow down or not be able to grow is where they get stuck on ideation. They just get stuck on, is this the best way? Is this the best way? Sometimes in business, it's all about just putting yourself out there, seeing if it works, then changing, right? Because if you think about it, I mean, we as humans are very, we're gifted with our ability to kind of extrapolate the abstractions, right? And see what will happen and kind of think for it ourselves. But that's not really how markets function. Some good ideas can, completely flop, and some terrible ideas sometimes become immense successes. So execution, like getting used to insecurity, and just cracking down, always doing stuff. That's the most important.
Right. So I think from that we can move on to the mindset that an entrepreneur should adopt, because definitely, like you said, entrepreneurship is surrounded by insecurity, but you need to power through that challenge and move on. So other than these few factors, what are the additional few qualities that an entrepreneur should possess, in your opinion, which would definitely help him move up the ladder?
Yeah, so having a growth mindset, I think, is primary and fundamental to an entrepreneur. If you don't have a growth mindset, if you get bogged down really quickly, because a tendency of human beings is to personalize things. If somebody doesn't like your idea, it feels like a personal attack, right? But in things like entrepreneurship, it's not. Everybody has different objectives, everybody has different understandings of the world. So I think having a growth mindset is very important, kind of always being an optimist, always looking at the brightest side of things. And I think one thing, again, is very, very important, is the people you surround yourself with. So that is also one of the objectives of the Entrepreneurship Club, is to kind of give you that environment. So there is this very famous saying, I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but it says, show me 5 of your friends and I'll show you your future. Right?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that holds very true, because entrepreneurship is very single track. It's like that, have you seen those horses with those things on the side? And they just, that's all they can see, right? Like straight up, that's all they can see. That's kind of what entrepreneurship is. Sometimes you're working weekends, sometimes you're working 15-hour days, sometimes, because you have to kind of put yourself in that zone where that's all you can see. And you're a bloody optimist and you're bloody happy about everything. You just keep cracking. So yeah, that would be some of the tips.
Right. So I think very well put, Galav. Thank you. So I just had a question, which I think everyone might be having. So on what basis do you determine if your idea is feasible or not, whether it's capable of execution or not? Because definitely, right.
Mm-hmm. I got your question. So see, I am a bit different in this sense that I am a person that believes in establishing cash flows before actually operationalizing things, right? So even in the ideation challenge, we had a couple of organizations that were very funding based. That is not a way I like to operate in. And that is a personal thing. Everybody has their own different styles, right? Like Elon Musk loves funding. So he'll get as much funding as he can. I don't like funding. So what I think is that, like, establishing cash flows, getting things, testing, getting indications of value being generated is very important, right? So establishing those cash flows, kind of, even if you're at a loss, if you've got money coming in every month, I think that is signs that a business is working, right? Because then you can kind of turn that loss around later on.
Right.
But if you are investing, say, 5-7 CR to build a factory, you're already at so much of a loss that you kind of need to, really push. So that's kind of my perspective on that. Does that answer your question though? I think I kind of
definitely does. Thank you very much. So one piece of, I think you've seen all the videos that that was sent to you, and we received your score sheet as well. So one advice, just one takeaway. I think I've gained a lot, but just one takeaway, if you had to just throw it out to the participants as well, what would that be?
All of the submissions out there, for like all of them in general, or for
exactly specific? From anything in general, from your learnings as well as a student, could stem from anything.
Okay, so I mean, on the whole, the ideation challenge, I think, was pretty good. Most of the ideas were really good. Now, okay, something on the whole, one suggestion to all of them. Wait, let me just run all of them through in my mind again.
Definitely.
Don't remember which ones were there. Yeah, I would say, I mean, the ideas were good. Some of them a bit more, they should kind of think a bit more about the execution side of it. I think another big thing to fall into these days is the entire funding trap, because everybody sees these unicorns every day. Everybody's like, I want $1 billion. I want to be the next Nike. Difficult. I'm not a big fan of the entire funding route businesses. I feel that even in the ideation challenge, there was this one idea that was very valuable actually, which is some sort of healthy snacks thing. But yeah, when it came to the business models, kind of, essentially figuring out how you're going to be getting those cash flows, how you're going to be paying off those revenues. Like, that is very important, right?
Right.
I'm not putting it very eloquently, but essentially know your business model, understand your value proposition, and kind of tailor everything to it. It's very important to understand.
I'm also given to understand that we're living in a time which requires an angle of sustainability to the sides of things as well. So many businesses are actually ranging and diversifying to the sustainable aspect of their businesses as well, right? So would you say that they are effectively implying such protocols, or it's just a big sham for just anything?
Okay, so see where I see sustainable businesses going. Okay, I'll give you a bit of context. So I did this course called Impact Investing with Professor Jeremy. I think it is one of the electives that you might get also. I'm not sure. Right. But what I learned in impact investing is that now there are new financial models. Earlier, it used to be bottom line ROI based. So returns, investment based on that, right? Now the new innovative financial models, as they say, is impact investing, which has impact metrics linked, right? So say for a business that is saying that, okay, we want to work socially, their funding is not only based on their growth rates, but it is also based on the number of lives they've impacted. Depends on every company. Some companies can have number of lives, number of villages, variance, right? There is the variance.
Very true.
But what I like about this is that it actually incentivizes capitalism, the traditional capitalist systems of money as the reward,
right,
and kind of flips it on its head, right? And says that, okay, impact metrics are also what we're going to look at. And even if you give me 10x growth, I'm not going to fund you until you've kind of touched 1 lakh lives, right? That is something that I feel is going to be one of the primary drivers of capitalism in the upcoming like 10, 12 years. Another big trend that we all have kind of been noticing is also that there's a huge shift in mainstream businesses shifting towards sustainable practices. Say H&M advertising about their, recyclable clothes, Uniqlo, all of these brands, Zara also. Right? I just bought a Trax recently that says that it is completely recycled, which I do not believe, but it's there.
Marketing gimmicks, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of them are gimmicks, a lot of them are real life. Thing is that for entrepreneurs that kind of want to make a change, I would say that be very aware, be very cognizant of the change that you're kind of trying to make. And another important thing is to kind of understand what is already going on in the sector, right? So lots of education things are coming up, lots of these things are coming up. They have the potential to impact, but a lot of them are just old ideas recycled, right? Which is good. But I am a person that is I am endeared by innovation, right? So if there is something that is, innovative, that is new, or that kind of changes the style of something, that is very endearing to me personally. And I feel like that is something that people should kind of gun towards, right? It's not about fat businesses. It's not about getting that funding, because that's not going to last. It's about, getting to the grassroots. Business, end of the day, is all about helping people. So you have to kind of think of it like that. Where do I help, right?
Yeah, very true. So I think we all can say that we definitely learn from each other as people, as individuals. So if I were to ask your learning moment from this challenge that you judged, could you maybe just name?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, there's one idea. I think I've ranked this I've rated it the best. I'm not sure how others have rated it, but I really like the idea. So there's this small tier 2, tier 3 engineering college. And I don't know if you watched the videos or not, but he actually has a system of recycling plastics into a combustible gas and into a fuel that you can use, right?
Right.
And if you look at the prototypes, it's actually very, very simple. Very simple. It's a gas cylinder with like a tin on top of it, and then he puts plastic in it, and then it kind of melts. He's burning it out, and he has that fuel out, right? And I mean, I think that is like it's the pinnacle, right? Innovation. That is what innovation is, where you can have something that can just be applied, right? So yeah. Could you repeat the question once, Vatsal, though? I think I kind of got lost in my own thoughts.
So what was primarily your learning moment from judging this challenge?
Yeah. So why I brought that up is because I am a person that really believes in doing things properly, right?
Right.
So for me, thinking of a recycling system where I am using things like a tin can
Mhm.
never figures in my mind. I'll always, like, it'll be like, what the hell? Really? No. I will do a proper prototype. I will do it properly, right? I will spend those, I don't know how much, I will spend those 50,000 to kind of get a prototype that looks nice, is painted well, shit like that, but does the same thing. So one thing I learned there was that you have to make do. Sometimes you don't have the resources. As an entrepreneur, that should never stop you. Those guys were able to kind of recycle plastic with
Right.
the freaking cylinder. So I was like, okay, I have to reduce those inhibitions, go with the flow, kind of. If something is working, play with it, regardless of whether it is a polished product or not.
Right. Uh, Thank you very much. So I just have one or two questions more tops. So one of which is maybe just could you elaborate your experience as a judge on the whole challenge, and if you could see some of these ideas hitting, being the next big things that enter the market and revolutionize their industries as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the experience of being a judge is always nice,
Right.
especially when you're a student that has just graduated. So it kind of good ego boost. But apart from that, jokes aside, it is interesting to see other people's ideas. It is interesting to see how people execute things because there's a huge variance. And one of the benefits of kind of being there at an ideation stage or prototyping stage is that you are seeing the sum of everything that has happened on the product, right? Without actually being involved in that sum, right?
Right.
So that actually exposes you to different ways teams approach projects, different ways people approach um, the prototypes, things like that. So that is always interesting to see. Like I told you, I don't like funding based options. To see more funding options gives you the exposure. You need to kind of always listen to your enemy, regardless of whether you like it or not, or at least listen to things that you disagree with. So I think it gives you a bit of a more holistic approach or holistic perspective. Second part of the question was, I'm sorry, I forgot. What was the second part?
So it was primarily uh, your experience as a judge. So I think that's pretty much it. So, and now over to the last question. What do you think we could have done better in organizing or judging this competition as a whole, for maybe just for your round, if you're aware, maybe some feedbacks or
Oh,
areas of improvement?
okay, what I would possibly suggest is that what we saw in this ideation round was that we saw various companies at very different levels. There were some prototypes that were not even there, and then there were some prototypes that have been executed and kind of are already operating, right? Like the one I told
Right.
you about, the one we were just discussing, the plastic one. They've
Right.
already started with some panchayats and things like that. So we had startups at different stages. There were some that only had pictures and representational images, and then some actually running prototypes. So I think one thing that the Entrepreneurship Club can do next time you do hold a challenge like this is kind of segregate based on the stages companies are in.
Right.
Because there was this iPad concept with the braille dots popping out in the
Right.
back. Now that was purely ideational, right? There was no actual prototype there. There was nothing like that available. And then there were some with those glasses that actually had working prototypes. And then there was this one mask with the fan that again was a prototype. So all of them were at different stages, right? So one thing I would suggest is that like you could segregate between stages. And then another thing that you could also think about is that this was in line with SDGs. Now, thing with something like SDGs is that it is a very corruptible thing, right? Anybody can kind
Right.
of bring things towards SDGs. So that is good. It is good to have impact metrics. It is good to have that. But also on the bottom line, how do people plan to bring these things? Like, I like the idea of glasses that can actually identify objects and read things. But if it is 7,000, 8,000 rupees, it's not difficult, right? Indian market does not have that much of paying capacity. So how do they plan on actually bringing it to the market? Now, it is possible. I'm not saying that it's not. it is possible. Well thought out plans, not even a well thought out plan, like a decently thought out plan can actually make it possible. But how? Like that is something that people need to think about, right? Kind
Right.
of bring it out there. And yeah, otherwise I thought it was pretty well executed. Everything was good. You were following up constantly, so thank you for that.
Thank you for recognizing. Thank you very much. Yeah.
No, no, it was a pleasure, man. Good. It was good. I had a good time.
I think that brings us to the end of our small talk, I'd call it. Thank you very much, Galav. It was great speaking to you, and I'm hoping we could keep having you over for different events, maybe podcasts as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I would be excited at that prospect.
Definitely. All right. Thank you very much. Take care.
All right. Cheers, Vatsal. Have a great one, man.